So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about George Crabtree and Kyle, but first we're going to talk about George Crabtree. So what we like to do is look at their list, and then we like to look at their matchups. That way we get a bit of a context here, right? Because let's just say you never hit any of our natural predators. We'd like to know that when we look at what this list had to go through to get its way to the top, right? So we're just going to do a quick one this week because the rivals are going to be changing, but we still get to see what they had to face, right? So in here we got Mega, we'll say Rock, Captain Badrook, Mazraz Cragbag, Warboss, Follow Me Lads. I was always on the fence to Follow Me Lads, but enough of times I've seen these placing events to know that Follow Me Lads is worth it. 2 inches matter to all you special gets. Then we got Warboss and Mega Armor, Warboss and Mega Armor, Warboss on Warbike with Super Cyborg Body and Zagrog Wartsnaga. So a few comments here. I have been saying I do appreciate Warboss, Mega Armor, and I'm really happy to see this as another source of AP, another source of skirmishing, a different kind of sense of durability the Orks don't naturally have with our natural armor saves, and doubling down on this is pretty good. Now going future, what we'll see with this, I'm not sure. Some of the matchups that we're gonna have a hard time with let's say Necrons, or to be specific, what was the other one I was thinking? But Necrons and Eldar, Dark Eldar. I'm not sure if Mega Armor is the answer to that. So then we have the Warboss, and on Warbike, yeah, I'm still in favor of using the Death Killer Wartrack because for 5 points you get the Flamer, you get the Melta, and you get a couple more wounds. But people definitely use him as mobility because he's much smaller. I did have fallen victim to him being tri-pointed before though, because he has that goofy base. And then Zagrog Wartsnaga. We love Zadrock because he's our one ability to do scouting. And sometimes just getting up to the mission, doing those secondaries, taking board control, already starting to block out some ingress, and just, presence on the table is really what men's games. Movement matters. So him giving us access to that is really nice to see. We got 4 trucks on the list. Even with the data slate guys, I think 4 trucks is still very much the way to go with Orks. We got Flash Kits, the big brick of Gretchen. I like to see he actually went for the big brick. I'm always wondering about that. People who use him, do they use the brick or a little 10-man unit? You let me know. I know some people like to put them in trucks. We have 1, 2 10-man unit of Gretchen, and then he brought his Mega Knobs, but he brought them with power claws and custom shooters. I'm always, loving arguments going back and forth with that, but I can understand why people bring the shooters. Then we have the big unit, what I call a scalpel unit, because it solves all your problems of knobs. I love keeping in a 10-man unit because I really appreciate the fighting on death with that unit. And then, of course, everybody's favorite trio of 2 Storm Boys and a Warbiker for that constant scoring. You can use the Warbiker with the Warboss on bike or separate, right? If you want maybe more board control, more secondary activations, you can do that. But if you're really trying to contest an objective and draw enemy firepower, put the biker with the Warboss and make sure he's a nice distraction card effects. So let's see what he had to get into to these couple get stuck into, right? We have Imperial Knights. Canis Rex is still good. Knight Crusader, Helvrin, Warglaves, Caladius Assassin, and Cordial Henchman. One thing we can look on here is going into what we would be considered a favorable matchup for Orks if we had Squigs. He was able to pull this off with trucks, with Warbosses and Mega Armor, knobs, and just having the scouting capability. So it's pretty interesting that, typically Knights, you're like, oh well, did he have a bunch of Squig Hog boys? And it's like, nope, we had the Warboss, he had Maz, and Captain Badrook out there with the flash kits were tearing down some of those Knights as we know they can, the baby Knights. And to his second matchup, we had Imperial Agents. I don't know what's happening here. Okay, that was very flavorful. We'll just not look at that. Sorry, I have no things I can say about that. Then we have Mark Pepper. There's also why we go in the context of this, right? He went to Eldar. He had the Yinkarn, Yavrin, Artarg Wayleaper, Dragon Fusion, Banshee Mask, Warpglaive, Fiend Enhancement. What the heck? Death Jester, Fate Messenger Enhancement, Scourges, Shadow Specters, Warp Spider, Night Spinner, Ravager, Darklance, 3 of them, and then 3 Warwalkers, Brightlands. So we know they took, now they only take 6 of those dice at the beginning of the game to actually get whatever they want going off. They took increases on all, their Night Spinners. This is a mixture of, different kind of units. You see the Death Gesture stuck in here. So it's an off the wall kind of mix going on. But what I want to say is we don't really know what's going to happen with Dark Eldar. And so be aware for kind of the Eldar flavor, but in a different way, right? We're not going to have to deal with so much Craft World, but we are going to have to understand Dark Eldar and how they operate. So we have Necrons. Oops, I sharded. So he brought, we'll see, 1 Deceiver Catan, a Nightbringer Catan, a Void Dragon, a Hexmark Destroyer, Technomancer, the Silent King, interesting, and then a straight up Transcendent Catan, and a Monolith. So as we're seeing here with our boys list, he's going into a bunch of odd SKUs that are just kind of odd and, fun to see, but this is why you have to look at what people had to go into for this. And then last but certainly not least, he went to a World Eaters list of Angron, Karn the Betrayer, there. World Eater's Lord on Juggernaut with Favorite of Corn. Master of Executioner with Berserker Glaive. We know this guy took a great nerf, as in great for us. Sucks for him. He's still very interesting matchup for Orks. Is be careful because he could definitely chop down your characters. But World Eaters overall just took so many, so many nerfs that they're going to be easy for us to run over. Sorry, World Eaters. Jackals, Corn Zerkers, World Eater Runners. Sorry, I meant Rhino. 8-bound, exalted. Okay, well, we know that list just got nerfed to oblivion. So let's take a look at Kyle real quick. Oop, I passed this boy real quick. Take a look at Kyle's list, what he had to go to, because we've seen our boy George Crabtree just had some odd matchups, but when he had to actually come through, he did. So let's see our boy Kyle's list. So Kyle brought something that I very, very much appreciate. So shout out to Kyle because he brought foot slogging, Gaz, and SWAT squad. That's what I'm talking about. He got them SWAT team boys. Yeah. So he has, let's see what these SWAT teams look like. We got a Beast Boss, Gazgul, Mazrog, Nava Smasher Cook with Edwapus Kill Chopper, Warboss, Beast Naga Boy unit, triple trucks, 2 5-man units of burners with the rocket, 2 10-man units of Gretchen, 2 mega knobs for Gaz with Kill Sauce. I appreciate that. 2 5-man units of knobs, love that, and then 1 big brick of Squighog boys with 2 storm boys and a Warbiker unit. So you can see SWAT team between knobs and burner boys, trucks for the SWAT with the Beast Naga boys and the boys. Very fun to see how he brought this list, and the Squighog brick. I still think the Squighog brick is totally in play if you boys ever wonder, but of course put Headwapus Kill Chop on there because that's really where you bring it. Now, when I'm in question, and you guys can tell me in your exchanges, I do think Orks might be transitioning back into a truck spam here if you're not just afraid of going into multiple battle wagons for that, threat overload. Are we bringing the Beast Boss back? Is he kind of an answer here? I'm not sure. He hasn't made his way back onto my list in a while. So let's take a look at what he had to go through in his first matchup. So we had Grey Knights. So Grey Knights is another army that took, a bit of a buff here. They're going to have their Dreadnought access. They get better firepower. Their flamers, are actually with their side cannons, I believe, actually got better AP and still ignoring cover. So if Orks do move into our elite infantry kind of meta, Grey Knights can become a factor and start beating us up again. They're right there on the stat line where they about 50-50 when we go into them. It becomes a movement game really in that. We have Brother Captain Stern, Cal Drago, Brother Captain, and 2 Librarians. I think Librarians took an increase in there as well. Terminator, 3 triple Terminator squads, a Strike Marine squad, a big Paladin brick. So this list maybe went up in points a little bit. They don't really care for the Strike Marine squad. I'm sure they had it just to have more stuff. Grey Knights are to be on the lookout for Orcs. One thing to keep in mind is you have to know their rules in order to have a great chance of beating them as an Orc player. So Kyle, good job on there because I'm assuming you understood their rules enough to kind of box them out of the objectives, know what to do here and there, and throttle when you could. So World Eaters, we know they took a nasty nerf. I'll just say that Orcs had a great winning rate into World Eaters at that time, even though World Eaters are very strong, right? So at least they were really strong. So third matchup, he went into Blood Angels. Blood Angels got a good increase where now they have +2 strength. That really throws them into a bunch of different kind of thresholds for Orcs that we should pay attention to if you have local Blood Angels in your meta, or if you come across one, maybe an RTT or something. Just know that, if they have a unit of Jump Pack Marines on their list, getting +2 strength and the ability to have Lance means they can run in there and start wounding some of your T5 infantry on 2s. They can counter your knobs with that, even with their built-in -1 to wound. So that's what I'm talking about, where we're getting to this. If we choose to lean into an infantry type more meta, you see a lot of different factions are actually going to have tools for that or see that coming as well. And then their Power Fists can get up to strength 10. They're going to be starting to wound stuff on 2s that we don't want them to as well. So even though I'm not saying they're going to be the most meta, when you run them and knowing some of their rules, just know that when they're running the right, they're the new detachment, they can do that. It's not new, but they're updated rules. So we have the Gladius Task Force, Gabriel Seth, Chaplain, Sanguinor Priest. That's cool. Assault Intercessor Squad, Blade Guard Veteran, Death Company, Eliminators, Eradicators, Vanguard Squads, Ball Predators, Death Company Dreadnought, Land Raiders, 2 of them, and Redemptive Dreadnought. Redemptive Dreadnought went up in points too. Not seeing the cohesion on that list, but I can appreciate its strength. And I'm sure that guy had a really good idea for everything, why he brought everything he had on there. For his fourth matchup, he went into that same oddball off the wall Dark Eldar. Sorry, Eldar list. It was a mixture of freaking units. And then we have last but certainly not least, this matchup to Ashley Mayo. It was an Eldari list, but with Harley Quinn's involved in there. Do I think this will be the future of Eldar? Not sure. I have seen this before. The one thing that Orks don't like about this kind of matchup is a lot of transports. Sometimes we can have issues disembarking them. Yet flash gets really help you in that. In these kind of matchups where maybe Eldar, Dark Eldar, when you have your flash gets, putting them off the table so you can bring them on, get an activation while they're in a truck. Once the trunk gets popped, they get out. They're probably still going to survive that because those armies don't always have the volume of firepower to kill them. Then you get to shoot them again. Maybe you pop Overwatch and you get to have multiple activations in your flash kit. So that's great into Eldar and just any of those T3 armies as a whole. So great job to George, Crabtree, and Kyle for the whoa. That's what I'm talking about, boys.